Well, hello and welcome to Binge Watch, the podcast where we take a look at the hottest new TV and film releases on streaming television platforms. I'm Hannah Fernando, the group editor of Woman and Home magazine.
And I'm Ian McEwen, writer on TV and Satellite Week, TV Times, What's on TV and whattowatch.com. And today we're looking at the new releases that will be available from Friday, the 18th of April 2025, including David Oyelowo as an ex-con inventor in Apple TV comedy Government Cheese, and the Western romance Ransom Canyon on Netflix.
And we'll also be checking out Disney Plus abduction drama The Stolen Child and rockumentary Pauline Black, a two-tone story on Sky Arts. But first, Ian, what is in the news?
Maxine Peake, who we recently talked about because that series See No Evil about the Moors murders has cropped up on Netflix. Well, she will appear in Apple TV's Australia set thriller The Dispatcher, about a former detective trying to trace his missing daughter. What else is in the news, Hannah?
Well, the UK can look forward to getting its very own version of the legendary late-night US comedy Saturday Night Live, when Live from London, It's Saturday Night, arrives on Sky next year. That's exciting.
Exciting, and hopefully they won't do any cruel caricatures taking the mickey out of someone's appearance. Topical. Well, good selection, good variety of things for you this week. We're going to start on Apple TV Plus with a new comedy called Government Cheese. It arrived on Wednesday the 16th of April. And here's a clip.
Dad can make something out of nothing.
He made the best sandwiches out of government cheese and white bread.
All that poison food is probably what made him a criminal.
This invention is my family's future.
What's wrong with him?
You would know if you'd been around.
Do you know the Prevost brothers? I owe the Prevost brothers?
10 episodes, Apple TV, so you're going to get your first 4 initially, then it's going to drop weekly. It's an unusual one, for sure. The title, I'm not sure about the title. The title is because the main character's mother used to be able to make delicious sandwiches out of government-issued cheese. Okay, that you learn that in episode 1, but that's by the by. So it's set in California in 1969, and it's all about this guy called Hampton Chambers. He's played by David Oyelowo, who perhaps best known for playing Martin Luther King. Anyway, we start off, he's in prison for theft, and while he's in there, he sort of has a religious conversion, but he also comes up with this new invention of a self-sharpening drill bit. So he gets out of jail. There's kind of it's pretty exciting, the prison sequence. There's a bit of a riot. Anyway, that's going to come back to haunt him, as we discover. So he gets out of jail, he goes home, and he's all excited about, resuming his life and selling his invention and turning his fortunes around. But the family seem pretty disenchanted. Apart from one of his sons, they're not really that bothered to see him, which is quite funny. And then he discovers he's in hot water because of what happened in prison. He owes money to some quite dangerous, I think they're French-Canadian brothers. Meanwhile, he supposedly has this connection that's going to get him an interview to sort of pitch his new invention. But it turns out that this guy is just basically a janitor in the factory. A lot of dramas about black families, especially period dramas, are about racial politics. Whereas this isn't so much. It's more about this particular guy's story and about his family. And it's almost got the sort of vibe of a Coen Brothers film. It's just very different. It looks great. I love the costumes, are fantastic, and the sets. Oyelowo is brilliant as this relentlessly optimistic character who finds himself in all sorts of bother, but still stays positive. I love the son who is pleased to see him back. is very bright and has been offered these scholarships, but he's more interested in learning the pole vault, which he's doing in the backyard. So there's a lot to like about it. Yeah, maybe a touch of Wes Anderson as well. It's pretty quirky. It's the Q word, Hannah. It's quirky. So yeah, I really liked it. It's very different. What did you think?
Quirky. There, we've said it. Quirky. Do you know what? It's good. I mean, it's Apple TV, isn't it? It's a good production. There's absolutely no doubt about it. But I think that also it is a little bit different, and I do like things that are a bit different because quite often, I don't know, genres can just be, I don't know, they're just so similar, aren't they? And you think, oh, here we go again. This doesn't feel like that at all, and I know that the co-creator, Paul Hunter, partly based all the adventures on his own family. And he said that he wanted to show black characters in an interesting way. And he said, to quote him, "I grew up in the San Fernando Valley and want to represent how it was growing up. My dad had ideas for different businesses but struggled to turn them into something tangible, but he was a true inspiration." And I think that's the bit, that's the undercurrent, that's what sort of makes this different, I think, is seeing something through a different lens. The kind of the bumps in the road that might be mountains actually sometimes, and the idea that somebody can still break through against all of the odds, and that relentless want to achieve even when everything's going against you. And I think for that reason alone, the just sort of that underpinning the whole thing made it really different, and I enjoyed it.
Next up, something I think maybe a little bit more in your wheelhouse, Hannah. It is a new Western drama series which arrived on Netflix on Thursday the 17th of April. It's called Ransom Canyon, and here's a clip.
So, you came home from New York.
My life here is starting to fall into place. Some things are just meant to be left in the past.
Quinn, it's not your job to put his heart back in one piece.
He's my friend, Ellie. And don't give me that look.
Yes, so you're quite right. This is a new Netflix drama. And if you're a fan of Yellowstone or Virgin River, this is one for you. I particularly like it because there's quite a lot of very attractive men in there. Rugged cowboys. What's not to love? So this was created by April Blair. It's a 10-part series, and it follows the lives of 3 ranching families. And there's kind of everything going. It's very unlike the last series that we were talking about. This is sort of feels much lighter in nature, I think, in terms of not the detail of they have a lot of loss. So I'm not taking away from that, but it feels very much sort of that there's a lot of relationships and nudity. There's a kind of a softness to this series, I would say, that you didn't get from the other one. And it, to be honest with you, I really, from what I've seen so far, I really enjoyed it. It's the deceit of everything that's going on. Do you really know somebody? You think you do, but do you actually? And it does look at loss, and one particular guy's loss where his son was killed in a car crash, and that's really heavy hitting and hard hitting, and them trying to work out their life. But as I say, it's kind of the flip side of that coin is the romance, and I think that will appeal to a lot of people. What do you think, Ian?
Well, we've had government cheese, and this is a great big slice of Western cheese. I mean, I am actually working my way through season 1 of Yellowstone at the moment. This is more like Virgin River, I would say. It was one to file under guilty pleasure, I suspect. It's based on some books by Jodie Thomas. I mean, I enjoyed it, but it's pretty, I don't know. It's not very convincing. So you've got this sort of very broody character called Josh, who has been bereaved twice. And then his late wife's friend, who is a concert pianist who has come back to Ransom Canyon. So she obviously really likes him in a romantic way, but he can't kind of reciprocate. He's very closed off emotionally. So you've got that going on. And then he's kind of got a love rival who is this guy called Davis, who owns a local bar, who is making a play for her. I don't know. I mean, it's not really for me, I must admit. And there's some quite good stuff about the sort of younger generation and what they get up to as well, but it's pretty cheesy. An enjoyable watch, but I mean, I don't think I'd stick with it. I prefer something like Yellowstone, which, although it has its fair share of, moments where you have to suspend your disbelief, I think that the characters have more depth in Yellowstone, and it's pretty gritty as well, to use your favourite word, Hannah. So yeah, perhaps not one for me, but I enjoyed what I saw of it. Much more up my alley, over on Sky Arts and Now TV, we have Pauline Black, A Two-Tone Story. And here's a clip.
When I look back over my life, it feels full of scenes and stories all knit together.
This is how I used to feel in 1979. Black and blue.
No one notices a little black girl sat in a room full of white older people.
I was never going to be a nice little white girl.
Well, as I always like to say, Hannah, of course, I'm in a ska band. And yes, we do play a song by The Selector, the band that Pauline Black was the lead singer of. Way back when bands like Madness and The Specials and The Body Snatchers were sort of heading up the big ska revival that swept the nation in the late 70s and early 80s. And I did have a little chat with Pauline about this because it's very much the story of her life, which in itself is fascinating, and also the story of the band. So she was adopted by a sort of middle-aged white couple and brought up in Essex. So naturally she felt very much like an outsider. And then she moved to Coventry to study science, and that Coventry was where this sort of movement sprang up, wasn't it? The bands like The Specials, and became the lead singer of The Selector. So she kind of faced sort of, sexism and racism. And the band, they had a few hit singles, but they split up relatively quickly. But she's kept going, and in fact, she's performing at Glastonbury this year. She's still gigging. She still looks amazing. And they were sort of noted for their electrifying live performances where she would just be bopping around the stage for the whole gig. I love The Selector. I love all the ska and two-tone music. But her own story is fascinating as well. It's a really good watch. Whether or not you're a ska fan or a music fan, she's a fascinating character, and she's been through a lot and she's come out fighting. So more power to your elbow, Pauline, and looking forward to seeing you at Glasgow. Obviously, you're far too young for this, Hannah, but did you enjoy it?
I always enjoy documentaries or rockumentaries like this because it doesn't matter really whether you enjoy the music or not, although in this case, I did. It doesn't really matter though, because it's just really interesting hearing someone's story, particularly Pauline's, which, as you say, is really fascinating. I mean, an idea of her having a slot at Glastonbury this year at 71 is really pretty amazing, isn't it? And I didn't know anything about her. I didn't really know anything about any of it. So, and I don't think it mattered because I do now. And that's that was what was interesting. And just seeing the story about the fact that she was brought up by middle-aged white adoptive parents, and talking about how much of an outsider she felt in Essex, in her Essex childhood, and just feeling that bit different. Although clearly, they did everything they could, and and what have you. But how tough that was, and going back to what we were talking about before, kind of that strength and that want to achieve, and that drive is just so inherently in her, isn't it? It's absolutely brilliant, and it's sort of makes you all sit up and take note, really, and think, do you know what, the unachievable is actually achievable.
Well, we're going to finish with another very impressive drama It arrived on Disney Plus on Wednesday, the 16th of April. It's called The Stolen Girl, and here's a clip.
Words can't describe the pain we've been in since you took our daughter. I'm asking you now, one mother to another, please let her come back home safely.
I promise you, everything is going to be perfect.
So, Disney Plus is full of surprises, isn't it? It really, really is. This is just quite something. So, I haven't watched every single episode yet, and I don't want to give away too much. But I can tell you from the minute this starts, the hairs on the back of your neck will be up, particularly for parents, because the scenario is one that most of us parents have been in. You're running late, get to school, that's always me, screeching in at the last minute, and there's the child waiting with her friend, having a chat, they're having a great time, and then the child asks you if they can have a sleepover. Please, mummy, please, mummy, please, mummy can have a sleepover. 9 times out of 10, most of us would say yes if it wasn't a school evening, probably, because they're having a really great time, and you don't, why wouldn't you? Well, of course, this is every person's parents' worst nightmare, because the child goes missing. It's absolutely terrifying. Now, you sort of know that something's not right straight away, I think, in this, because it's very cleverly shot. I think the music is, that sort of almost creepy in places, to be honest with you. And at first it all seems fine, because you could say, well, why on earth would you leave a child to someone you don't know, which is sort of runs through this to a degree, when the parents end up arguing, etc., and doing what all people would do, I suppose, which is sort of have a go at each other at one stage rather than putting together. And she'd gone to the house, she'd checked out the house, she'd gone there, taken the sleepover bag. There's one moment where the mother, or who we think is the mother of the child, she takes a picture of her child, and she says, please don't do that. She's very funny about it and doesn't want the picture. She says, I don't like people taking pictures of my children without asking. And that's the sort of first sign of her being a bit sort of odd. And what you see here is the fallout from this. So you, on the one hand, you've got the police. They sit there and they do their their public plea for someone to come forward and bring their daughter back. And then you've got sort of behind the scenes with the police, what's really going on, where they've got to give their details on their phones, and the police go through their phones, which of course unearths some stuff that perhaps both of them, if not definitely one of them, didn't want unearthed, which causes fractures, further fractures. So on the outside, this family seem like they have absolutely everything, and suddenly everything is gone, in the form of their daughter. And seeing that sort of emotion and that relationship between them, I think is really, really interesting. The flip side of that is that you've got the journalists as well, and there's one particular journalist who's adamant that she's going to find out what's going on, and she actually gets the ear of the police in the end, and finds out a lot of information. And so I don't want to give away too much, because the plot sort of just thickens throughout, and the more you get to know this family, who, as I say, on the surface, he's in banking, she works as a stewardess on private jets, really glamorous lifestyle, lovely big house, seem to have absolutely everything. It all starts to crumble, and when it starts to crumble, you realise that actually their foundations are built on sand, not cement, and things are a little bit worse than you already thought. I think it's absolutely captivating. I feel almost sick watching it, thinking I have done that before and said, yeah, you can go on a sleepover, not really knowing the person, and thank God everything's been fine. This is, obviously taking things to extremes to make a drama, but it's really well done. There's some really steely performances, I think, in there, and it is from the producer of Happy Valley, so you can expect some brilliance here. What did you think, Ian? Was it one for you?
Well, certainly episode 1 is an absolute belter, and it's only 5 parts, which I think is more than enough, so it's easily bingeable. So you've got Holiday Granger plays the woman who sort of hosts the sleepover. You've got Denise Gough is superb as Elisa, whose the mum whose daughter goes missing. And she works as a sort of stewardess for private jets, doesn't she? So she's got this jet set lifestyle, but it obviously makes childcare quite challenging. And then you've got Jim Sturgis as her husband Fred, who is a lawyer. So yeah, and it's perfectly believable how the situation develops, you know. But then the penny drop moment of when the couple realise all is not as it appears is brilliantly done. And it's one of those shows as well where everyone seems to live in an absolutely stunning, huge modern house, isn't it? So yes, and then, like you, I don't want to give too much away, but of course when there are police investigations into things like this, obviously you give over your laptops and your phones and things emerge. That's all I will say. From his work, he's sort of defending a sort of major criminal, I think. So is it connected to that? Is it connected to this other thing that comes out about their private lives? Who knows? But a search across Europe will ensue. So yeah, this starts so strongly, and particularly Denise Gough, her performance is so natural and real. I just hope that they can resolve it in an equally compelling fashion. But yeah, fingers crossed. Recommended. Well, we've got to that time, Hannah, where you find out, apart from the Masters Golf, what the hell you've been binge watching.
Yeah, I was force-fed that, to be honest with you. I didn't understand anything. I was reading it on the internet at dinner time saying, oh, I see Rory McIlroy's minus 12. And Alex like, that's not what you say. it's not a minus. It's not like that. So yeah, I was force-fed it, but I still don't understand it. No, I was deep in the Oasis Revolution on Amazon Prime because, of course, they're back, aren't they? And it's sort of, we're gearing up for the big reunion. Getting myself ready, Ian.
Humbug. Well, of course, for me, it's all about Interior Design Masters, which is back on iPlayer, and The Masters. I mean, one of the greatest conclusions to a golfing major, and one of the greatest stories, with Rory McIlroy completing the career slam. So yeah, good stuff. Apologies, non-golf fans. Well, we've just got time to look ahead to next week's offerings. So what is on the binge watch menu, Hannah?
Well, Mobland's Tom Hardy, gosh, we can't get enough of Tom, plays a troubled American detective in Netflix crime drama Havoc.
Superb. And you can also currently see him on the fantastic spy thriller Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy on iPlayer. Meanwhile, we will also be discovering the secrets of the penguins in a delightful new wildlife series on Disney+. So we look forward to those and much, much more. But in the meantime, listeners, keep
watching!